Hello, fellow YouTubers. I'm just gonna do something I'm gonna call a news day rant, like what's in the news today and such, and just give my insight and my opinions on it. Uh, let's see here. My first article here: Insight: Evidence grows for narcolepsy linked to GSK swine flu shot. So basically, if you're afraid of this, what do they call it, N1S1 virus, whatever the hell it's called, the swine flu thing, epidemic that started back in Mexico a few years ago. Um, they have these swine flu shots that you can get, and I've already seen enough video of people, I'm going to call them victims, that took these shots and they had like catastrophic adverse effects from taking it. Like that one girl that was like a cheerleader for that NFL football team, like it was so weird. She got really like bad nervous damage to her nervous system, and like she could go out and run, and like long as she was running she looked totally fine, but then when she would stop and try to walk, I mean, she would just shake, and it was like she was having a seizure just trying to walk and stuff. It was really sad just seeing that, and that was from one of these swine flu shots. And here we have another young girl over in Stockholm that took the shot. She was in perfect health before that. Now she suffers from narcolepsy. And if you don't know what narcolepsy is, it's the inability to sleep. It's like, it's almost impossible for you to sleep, and if you don't sleep, that's bad because your body needs to rest, and then it just weakens everything, your immune system and all that stuff. So now she has to take a multitude of pills just to get her to sleep, and now they have her on Prozac and all this stuff. And this is what pisses me off about it. And people can call it a conspiracy theory all they want just to downplay it and that, but like these swine flu vaccines or your flu shot vaccines, I'm more of an action type of person. I mean, how can I explain this to you? Like when I was in the Marine Corps, it was mandatory that we had no choice. We had to get all of our vaccinations and everything, like every year, and one of them was the flu shot. Like, it was mandatory to get the flu shot every year. So from 95 to 99, while I was in the Marines, I had to get the flu shot. And then let me tell you, every time I got that fucking flu shot, I got the flu like a few weeks later, or a week later, or a month later, and I was like, what's the point of getting this flu shot if I'm just going to get the flu anyway? So when I got out of the Marines, like in April '99, I decided, for whatever reason, even my mom was barking at me, make sure you get your flu shot, that's how moms are. I decided, well, I'm not going to get my flu shot. Or maybe I didn't decide to get it. It just maybe skipped my mind and I didn't get time to do it because I was working full time and going to college full time. And guess what? I didn't get the flu. And I was like, okay. So then the second year came along and I was like, just as an experiment, I'm not going to get the flu shot. So I didn't get the flu shot and I didn't get the flu. And here we are, almost 13 years later. I haven't had the flu in 13 years. That should tell you something right there, guys. I don't know. And then I did a little more research, like on the flu shots. It only covers like one strain, or maybe a few strains, and that's it. There's like hundreds of different strains of the flu, so it's not really protecting you. And then I come to find out, after reading other articles, that they're putting stuff like mercury in flu shots. And if you don't know anything about mercury, mercury is deadly to humans. Another thing about mercury, it never leaves the body. So every time you consume a product with mercury in it, like fish food or anything like that, the mercury just accumulates in your body, and what it does is it'll cause brain damage, organ failure. I mean, the whole thing. It'll really fuck you up. It'll fuck up your nervous system. That's why, like, a lot of you, if you like to go fishing and you live by the rivers or the lakes and stuff, when you go to get your fishing license, they'll give you a catalog, stating all the new rules for that year, and then they'll have recommendations in there, like you should only eat one fish out of this part of the river for like once a month, or you should only eat this many fish out of this lake, once a month. And they do that because they know the fish are contaminated with mercury and whatever other toxins, who knows, and they know it could be deadly for you. Like, so if I were to go down to my river, the Susquehanna River, which is right now, it's only recommended that you only eat one fish out of that river per month, and I won't eat any because now all the bass and everything, they got like these black spots forming all over them and stuff, and nobody knows what the hell it is. Some scientists think it may be cancer or whatever. I don't know, but that's the thing. If I were to eat like fish out of that river every day, for a year, it would probably kill me. Just the mercury accumulation that would compile in my body. So anyway, back to these swine shots. If I was you, I would totally stay away from them. Don't get them. Stop taking that silly flu shot because it does not do you any good. I mean, seriously, how many of you out there get the flu shot and then still end up getting sick anyway that year? I'm telling you, just as an experiment, do this for yourself and your kids. Do not get the flu. Well, I don't know if you can do it for your kids because I'm sure the schools will mandate you to have your kids take the flu shot. I know over in Scranton, there was like 200 kids that couldn't go to school because the parents wouldn't get flu shots for their kids. So the school basically kicked out 200 kids. Well, that's another story. That happened like last year. But I'm telling you, stay away from these flu shots. I'm not trying to scare. I'm not like, I'm not a conspiracy nut here. This stuff about the flu shots being bad for you, this conspiracy theory crap started like 3 or 4 years ago. I'm going off from my own experience. Since 1999, I stopped taking the flu shot in 99. I haven't had the flu since 1999. So I'm living proof that these flu shots are just baloney. And I don't know why they want you to take them. The fact that they have mercury in them, I don't know. It's just really, really strange. And that's my opinion on it. So, alright, I'm going to get off that one. I'm going to go to the next story. Ooh, yeah. This one was on Yahoo, which isn't a very reliable news source anyway, so... But it was the Benghazi hearing where they had Hillary Clinton, and she's on there testifying in front of Congress. And then if you watch the videos, I try to watch as much of the video as I could, like as all of it and stuff. She has this one bit where she's talking about she had to hug the wives and the daughters and the mothers of these 4 people that were killed in the Benghazi consulate, and she does that fake, like, oh, it was so horrible and blah blah blah, and but then again, while she's choking up and doing all that, there's not like any like tears in her eyes whatsoever. She just choked up, and then all of a sudden, like a minute later, she was totally perfectly fine. So that was just a bit that she played. Same thing as like Obama when he did his fake tears for the children in Sandy Hook. Anybody, if you've been around a while, I mean, I'm 37 years old, but if you've been around a while and you've been in enough relationships and you've been around enough people, you can tell the difference between fake tears, and fake sympathy and real tears. It's just, you just pick it up naturally, and you can't fake it. I mean, you have to be really good to fake it. Obama's not good at faking it, so he whips up these fake tears for the children in Sandy Hook. And then, but then again, he authorizes all these drone strikes, that go after one terrorist that kills hundreds of other children at the same time. Where's his tears for those kids? Where's his tears for all the innocent kids in Iraq and Afghanistan, and in Libya? I mean, he doesn't give a shit. But anyway, back to Hillary Clinton here. She goes on with her fake tears and all that stuff. And then the one congressman, he asks her about, when did you when did you find out? Like, when did you get the wire that, this wasn't an actual terrorist attack, or this wasn't an actual riot. It was an actual pre-planned terrorist attack. And if you guys haven't kept with the Benghazi thing, back before the election, like what, 2 weeks before the election, the November 5th election, uh, the Benghazi consulate was attacked. The diplomat was killed, and then there was another guy killed, and then there was two Navy SEALs that came to help, and they were also killed. And during this whole attack, they were calling for help, and the records even came out that White House got the call and everything. And so now they're doing this big spiel and putting on this big show for the public, like something's going to get done. And I think we all know nothing's going to happen. Um, like when they put Susan Rice, in the spotlight, when she came out and said that the Benghazi attack was due to some movie that some director in California put out on YouTube that nobody even knew about, because it basically, what they tried to say was that this video sparked the riot over in Benghazi that led to the death of these four people. But like what a lot of people are saying, riots, people don't normally carry RPGs with them. They're just not like walking around the street with RPGs, and then a riot breaks out and then they start to use RPGs and stuff, and the fact that the attack occurred on 9/11, which is like the anniversary of the 9/11 of 2001. I mean, that was a big red flag right there. That was like, hey, this is a terrorist attack that's going down. So the investigation is trying to conclude, or trying to find out, why wasn't more security provided for the Benghazi consulate when they were requesting it for months. And then the other issue is, why wasn't any help provided to the Benghazi consulate while they were being attacked? Why were the calls for the distress calls ignored, and why was no help sent? Like, if you didn't know this, but the two Navy SEALs that died in that attack, they actually disobeyed orders. They were told to stand down and not go to the Benghazi consulate to help. But they heard the cries for help on the phone and over the communication systems and that and such, and they decided to disobey orders and go there and try to save as many people as they could. But they ended up dying, unfortunately, which is really sad, because they could have sent so many more troops there to get it under control, and possibly could have saved everybody. Nobody had to die. And this congressman is asking Hillary Clinton, when did you actually find out that this was actually an actual terrorist attack and not some random riot sparked by a video? Because if you remember, 2 weeks before the election, that's what Obama came out and said. Obama was already bragging about how he killed Osama bin Laden and saying Al-Qaeda was crushed. But here, Al-Qaeda in Benghazi is attacking the Benghazi consulate 2 weeks before the election. And Obama, he's the first person that came out and said, hey, this was a riot that was sparked by a video by some director in California, which they now have in jail. He's serving like a year in prison. And that's what he kept to. That's what he stuck to for 2 weeks, even though they knew, like, that day that was not the case. And then Susan Rice, she came out and she just said what she was told to say. She was the UN ambassador or whatever. I forget what her position was for the US or whatever. And she basically just came out and said what the White House was saying. And then all of a sudden, all the media is zoomed in on her, like she's the one telling the lie. She wasn't the one. She's just telling what the White House told her to say. And what I've been saying along in my other videos, she shouldn't be the spotlight. Obama and the White House should be the one on the spot. Should be the one, taking the questions. They're the ones that should be sitting in front of Congress answering questions. So now the spotlight has gone to Hillary Clinton, because Obama basically threw Hillary Clinton under the bus. And to be honest with you, I think Hillary Clinton's just as bad as Obama anyway. I mean, she's just a heartless, careless, I don't know what this, I can't go into how much I really despise her. But anyway, so she made this comment to that senator that asked the question, what does it matter? What does it matter if they got killed by a group of terrorists or they got killed by a mob that was out drinking that night? Like, she's like saying, what does it matter? You know, and what Hillary, like, what I'd like to tell you, this is why it matters. We'd like to know why you guys lied about it, for the last 2 weeks. What does it matter? I don't even know where she got that from. What does it matter? What does it matter how they died, or who killed them, or who knew what? What does it matter if we knew that they were requesting, additional security, and because they didn't get their additional security, they got killed? What does it matter? The fact is, those 4 guys didn't have to die. That's what matters. Her not doing her job, that's why they died. So, I don't know, you can give me your thoughts on that. I mean, Hillary Clinton, God, she is just such an evil woman. And you know what really pissed me off? Like, during the hearing, when she's sitting there, she starts, anytime she was trying to make a statement, she would like knock on the desk, she would like pound the desk, like in rhythm with what she was saying. And you know what that reminded me of? It reminded me back in the 90s when Bill Clinton, in front of the media and all of America, was pounded on the desk in rhythm saying, I did not have sexual relations with Monica Lewinsky or whatever. I was like, what? And we knew that was a lie. We found out that that was a lie later on. But looks like she learned how to lie from her hubby there, Bill Clinton. Or maybe Bill Clinton learned how to lie from her. It doesn't matter. But this Benghazi incident, it was just a big cover-up. And it's bullshit. They're trying to put all this... Now they're just doing this fake hearing show. Nothing's going to come out of it. Nothing. The people responsible, Obama, Biden, and the White House administration, they're not going to be held accountable for it. So I don't even know why they're wasting our taxpayer dollars doing this hearing, because nobody's going to be held accountable for it. It's disgusting. Very, very disgusting. Anyway, I'm going to move on to the next story here. And this one doesn't have anything to do with politics. This is the subway issue. Somebody on Facebook put a picture of a subway sub, a foot long, and it came up like an inch or 2 inches short in that. And oh boy, let me tell you, it didn't take long. Like 2 guys in New Jersey whipped together a class action suit against Subway, just because the sub's not exactly a foot long. And I mean, I can see it. Unfortunately, I can see it going in their favor, because it's not being advertised as to what it really is. They're advertising it as a foot long, but in actuality, you're not getting a foot long. And I think what it's going to come down to, I think Subway has a chance of beating this, because what it's going to come down to is mass. How much... on average, how heavy is a foot-long loaf of bread that they use for their sandwich? Now, if they're putting the same amount of material into making a foot-long, sub, just the bread we're talking about, and they're using the same amount of ingredients, but they're just not forming it to a foot long. You know what I mean? You can take a foot-long bread and you can form it down to probably like a 3-inch glob of bread if you wanted to. You get my drift? I mean, maybe they're putting enough material into it, like flour and egg and stuff like that. Maybe they're putting enough into it to make a foot long bread, but they're actually, the shape of it is only coming out to be 10-inch, which is kind of, ridiculous, because really, I've gone to Subway. I love their subs. I didn't really, and I just know Like, it's common sense. I just know, like, when you make a loaf of bread, if you ever made a loaf of bread before, you're not really going to get it to come out exactly the same way or the same length every time. It's just, it's just common sense. But all these two guys in New Jersey are doing is like, hey, they're saying it's 12 inches long. So if they're advertising it as 12 inches, which the law basically is going to be in their favor for, it has to be 12 inches long. So I don't think Subway's trying to rip anybody off here. I think they're a good company. They provide a good product, and I think it's ridiculous. I think it's sad that a good company like that in America is getting sued because their bread's not coming out to exactly 12 inches long. I mean, seriously. I I'm a business owner, and I just started my business 2 years ago, and it's hard to grow your business, and there's so many regulations and stuff, and so many people trying to step on your toes, and you got to watch what you're doing. It's just like the little guy's always trying to bring, you know, the little lazy guy, who's got nothing going for him in life because he has no inspiration or willpower to go make life better for himself. They always try to pull down somebody else that is, and I just find that that's just sad. It makes you not want to have a business. It makes you not want to start a business. It's that Obama mentality, and you know, I honestly I hope Subway wins, but I don't think they're going to because it's just how the laws are. When it comes to advertising, if you're advertising this, that's what you got to give the people. If you're advertising a foot long by definition is 12 inches long. Even though if it's the same amount of material, I don't think that's going to matter because it's supposed to be a 12 inch, but they're only getting like an 11 inch. Honestly, people, do you really have to fucking, argue about 1 inch of bread? I don't know. Well, you can leave your thoughts and comments on that. Um, Here's an article. It's regarding the gun control issue with the semi-automatics. Uh, Outdoors enthusiasts angered by postponement of Eastern Sports Show. Well, the title of the article, I read the article. Like, I live here in Pennsylvania, and they have the nation's largest gun show in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Um, it's called let me see what it's called here. It's called the Reed Expo. Harrisburg-based Eastern Sports and Outdoor Show. Yeah, that's what it's called. Expo organizer Reed Exhibitions. Yeah, so the organizer is Reed Exhibitions, and it's the largest gun show in the United States. It's held down in Harrisburg, and it had to be canceled this year because for some reason, like the Reed Exhibitions, they had the gun show in Nevada, and they have plans for it in I think New York and Massachusetts or something like that. But for some reason in Pennsylvania, they decided to tell all the vendors that, hey, we don't want you bringing any semi-automatic weapons. Even though there's no law been passed or anything like that, they don't want anybody bringing, any of the vendors to bring any semi-automatic. So what happened was 300 vendors canceled. They put their foot down and said, no, we're not going to come to your exhibition if we can't bring our semi-automatic weapons. So basically the show got canceled. And just so you guys, if some of you are watching this and you're for the semi-automatic ban, I just want to make it apparently clear to you. If you look at the FBI statistics, semi-automatic weapons only account for 0.6% of the deaths, like gun deaths, that occur in the United States. And I think half of those gun deaths are mainly, half of the gun deaths total out of the United States are suicides. And the rest, basically, out of that, the 99.4% of gun deaths in America are caused by handguns. handguns and shotguns, weapons that aren't even semi-automatic weapons. So getting rid of semi-automatics or banning semi-automatic weapons is just total bullshit. It's not targeting the problem at hand. Um, if you watch my one video, like 100% proof that violent movies and video games inspire violence, um, you'll see that, like in Norway, they had a total gun ban. Not even the police had guns, and that didn't stop that one guy from getting a hold of automatic weapons and such, and handguns and ammunition and explosives, and killing 92 people in Norway. It was like a ducks in a pond for him. Nobody had guns to protect themselves. Nobody had any concealed weapons. He just went around and killed 92 people in what, a period of like 5 hours. That's a lot of people to kill. That's like killing 20 people per hour. So I just want you to know, total gun ban is not the solution. Honestly, if you want my take on it, why I think violence, what causes these gun shooting and stuff, it's just with the parenting. Yeah, there's some kids that have mental problems and that. Sorry, I'm eating here. But I think it has a lot to do with the parenting, and I think it has a lot to do with the video games and TVs. Any of you that are listening to this, if you have kids, do you ever come home, your wife or your husband's at home, maybe making dinner for you or something, and you go into the living room and then you just see your kids there glued to the TV watching it like zombies? Well, let me tell you what, they're picking up everything they see in that TV. I remember I was doing a cleaning job for this lady. It was like a cleaning and landscape job, and she was right next to a school, like an elementary school, and I could hear all the kids screaming and yelling and all that stuff. And all of a sudden I hear this one kid, it was only grades 1 through 4th, and all of a sudden I hear this one kid like, "You hit me, I'm charging you with assault and battery." And I was like, wow. I remember, like, when I was in 4th grade, and the internet really didn't have the internet, because that was like in the 80s when I went to elementary school. And I just remember, man, I didn't know what the fuck assault and battery was when I was in 4th grade, and a lot of kids that get on the internet and stuff, you can't, they get exposed to this stuff and they think it's all right, and they see it in the movies. They think it's all right to shoot and kill. They kind of lose that connection between what life is and how to respect life and that. I stopped watching TV 6 years ago, and let me tell you, like, going to work every day and then coming home and watching TV and feeling kind of like bummed out all the time. Oh, my favorite football team lost, or my favorite basketball team lost, and it bummed you out. Then you go to work the next day, and then that's all everybody talks about at work is what they saw on television the night before. And then you got the exciting person at work that tells the one that took a vacation to, like, Spain. So that breaks up the monotony of talking about television for like a half a day, but then it goes back to the next day and you're just talking about what was on TV and what was on the news again. You think about it. Have you ever gone to work and actually spoke about something you didn't see on TV? Try doing that for a week. Try and come up with your own ideas. Try be original and be like, hey, I'm starting a club, I'm starting a billiards club, I'm starting a running club or something. Try to think of something other than what you've seen on TV to talk about. You're probably drawing a blank slate right now, aren't you? Because you can't think of anything else to talk about other than what you saw on TV. I mean, that's sad. So my advice to you, if you can, it's hard at first. I know it was hard my first 3 weeks getting rid of TV. But then as I started going longer and longer without it, I started calling my friends more. I started calling my family more. I started going out more and visiting my friends and family. I started helping people with stuff. And then eventually I even started my own business because I had the time to make a business plan up, and I had so much time on my hand. I started going to the gym again. I mean, once you get rid of that TV and get rid of that ball and chain called the TV, you can honestly start to live life again. Like this video I'm making right now, I have time to make videos, and do a bunch of other stuff now because I don't waste my time watching TV, and I don't spend $100 a month now anymore to waste my time watching TV. Uh, so anyway, back to this gun control issue bullshit. I actually thought this was, even though it cost a lot of money to cancel this show, like the state of Pennsylvania, it's estimated that they're going to lose $72 million in revenue just because this show got canceled. So I just want you people to realize guns aren't the issue here. They're not the problem. And if you do a total gun ban, it's just going to totally hurt, or not a total gun ban, but a semi-automatic gun ban. It's just going to throw another monkey wrench into the economy. $72 million is a lot of money. And I actually think the Reed Expo's decision to ban assault weapons at the show works in favor of the gun owners. I mean, the states are going to start to realize how much money they're going to be losing if this nonsense continues. But in addition, though, there's nothing stopping the gun owners from starting their own gun expos. And like I said before, if you look at the statistics for semi-automatics, only 0.6% of all gun deaths in America are due to semi-automatic weapons. And frankly, I'm really tired of Obama and Biden using the children as a prop to basically propel their gun agenda. And like I said before, Obama can sure drum up those tears for Sandy Hook children, but you don't see him with any tears when he authorizes drone attacks to kill thousands of innocent kids in Iraq and Afghanistan. And this is Mr. Nobel Peace Prize winner. The guy that got a Nobel Peace Prize just for becoming the president of the United States back in like 2008. What a bunch of bullshit. So, well, anyway. Well, I guess this is going to be my last one for the day. A blaze broke out at a skyscraper in Moscow, like on the 24th floor. This skyscraper wasn't even completed yet. A blaze, broke out, and of course, here's another skyscraper on fire that didn't collapse, That's going to spin me off into 9/11. I don't know if I really want to go there or not. But yeah, maybe I will. And pisses me off because I don't know what the whole entire story is like on 9/11. All I know is like I have a tremendous amount of common sense, and I'm a pretty smart guy. I was in the Marines, graduated college, started my own business, work out, I got a pretty clear head on my shoulders. But when I watch how those buildings fell due to planes crashing into them, and that I could buy, like to that point, I'm like, okay, both skyscrapers fell. But when when I watched the video of how Building 7 fell, like looked like it was totally perfectly imploded, I was like, that looked like images and videos of, buildings I've seen imploded by explosives before. And there's no doubt about it in my mind. I mean, when you look at it, look how it falls. And if you wanna challenge me on that, just go on YouTube and look up failed implosions. Look at buildings that are totally laced with explosives, and then only maybe half the explosives go off. Even if half the explosives go off that they laid out through a building, the whole building doesn't even fall. That's how sturdy these buildings are. And you're going to sit there, and I mean, if you're a doubter, and you're going to tell me Building 7 collapsed because of a fire that broke out in it because it got hit by part of a plane. that flew out of one of the twin towers? Really? You got to question that. And then I know they came out and they're trying to say, oh, well, when the buildings totally collapsed, like when the twin towers collapsed, it kind of, how can I say it? It destroyed part of the underground structures underneath it, causing Building 7 to collapse. I think that's what they're trying to say, because there was like an underground network of tunnels and trains and stuff like that. Um, if you guys didn't know this, though, the subway underneath the Building 7, not Building 7, but the Twin Towers, it wasn't even, it didn't even collapse in when those buildings fell. So I don't know how that would hurt the integrity of the tunnel systems under Building 7. And to be honest with you, I don't even know if there is any. If there's any, honestly, I don't know if there's any tunnel systems under Building 7. I'd have to look it up. But if you just look and watch how the building fell, it just looked like a total. It looked like a professional implosion. I mean, it just fell like evenly across, downward. Nothing was left standing of Building 7. So I'm not saying anybody planned 9/11 besides the terrorists themselves. I'm just saying we're not getting the whole story when it comes to Building 7. The way it fell, it just looked too professionally done. I don't know. But anyway, I just thought that's funny. Here we have another big fire in a skyscraper that's not even integrally sound because it's not even finished yet, and they were able to put the fire out, and it didn't bring the skyscraper down. So, alright guys, that was my news media rant for the day. Please leave your comments below, and subscribe to my channel, and thanks for watching. Have a good day. Bye.